Hi Libras, and welcome to your September 2022 General Tarot Forecast. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about your month ahead of September, getting close to your time of the year. Happy birthday to those of you aging up at the end of this month. So we are moving through your collective 12th house and into your first house by the end of September. It's great to be having a solar return, great to be getting that deposit of energy. Let's talk all about September for you all. So it feels like you're on the home stretch of something. It feels like you are really coming through with flying colors as you maybe enter into the last chapter of a long-running story. You have a lot of momentum behind you. You have a lot of support, or you have a lot of headwind now. So the month of September in general, if you guys got to see the comprehensive astrology video, it's kind of a perfectionist time. It's Virgo season, then it's Libra season, and a lot of people are having to really look at every single sector of their lives, having to rebalance, reform, and redraw boundaries, okay? And I can already probably diagnose for most Libras out there that the boundaries are a little bit struggling right now. Even as I'm starting to talk about that, my voice is starting to crack a little bit. So it's like maybe a difficulty in expressing boundaries, or also even an over-imposing of boundaries, or an over projection of boundaries being crossed. Like you might think someone's crossing their boundaries when they're not. You might have like personal vendettas as well, or you could see that vendettas are coming in based on boundary crisis or based on borders in your life. So it's going to be a good time to redraw those, or to understand why there have been these issues of aura or border or boundary, because you are becoming much smoother, okay, in energy, or much more sophisticated in the way that you enjoy life. So you're not having the same fears or the same needs to be stuck or still or stable. Rather, you are moving the other direction now. So 8 of Cups is coming up, 5 of Cups, the Devil. Something is too pressurized, something is too hard, something is too difficult, something from the past, and this might be over by now, but it is really changing, and it is really needing of change. So the only major arcana card you have this month is the Devil. So that which we feel shackled to, that which we feel we can't get away from, or we can't figure out, or we can't solve, that is, I think, the biggest thing in your life. And you might actually see, and I'm just feeling this intuitively for you Libras, that September could even be the first month where you have resolution. Okay, where you fixed that problem, where you made something work, where you, with your own two hands, created or molded something that is excellent. Okay, so there's a feeling of excellence coming in as well. And I think that that feeling of excellence is going to be the best thing to turn around and move towards. So the contacts that you have now, or the people that you have helping you now, are the good people, okay? Or you're moving towards a place where you're going to have a better network of people, or you're going to have an easier time, a better time of having the right type of advice or the right type of people around you, and not having to lower your standards, okay? So I'm feeling that a lot of Libras had to lower their standards, and you could actually probably look back like over the last few months, and you might see, wow, I had no clue who I was surrounding myself with, or I had no real care. I was believing too much even in people who were actually taking advantage of me, okay? So that's really important to be coming to terms with now here in September, and starting to like really move into this zone where we don't face that, or we don't quite have that in that same way, because the people around us now are more trustworthy, or more willing to meet us halfway. So trust is also a big key word for you. The Devil card indicates a lack of trust, or it can also indicate misplaced trust. Trust is always an issue with the Devil, because it's like we're chained to something we don't want to be chained to. Why do we trust that? Or why did we trust something that was going to do that to us in the long term? Were we not aware of what we were dealing with? Were we experimenting with something? And have we now learned? And the good thing about the Devil card is that it shows that we now see it for what it is, or we now see the truth. Nonetheless, we have to understand how we separate from that, or how we revamp many attachments in our life. So it's going to be a time of revamping attachments. On the plus side, Ace of Swords coming in, new ideas, new logic, new solutions to work that was too difficult. So things that were too hard in your life, you figure out how to make them easier. You figure out how to delegate, or you figure out how to condense things appropriately, or how to word things, or how to create things in a powerful, strong way. So, Ace of Wands reversed is coming up. You have two aces, and it's kind of interesting. You have like the Ace of Wands down in the bottom left corner upside down, and then you have the Ace of Swords on the top right corner. So how I would interpret that is like, now we can't just feel good about things, okay? Or like that good feeling that really toxic narcissist inspired in our life, we can't just go off of that, okay? We got to be smarter here. We got to be more committed perhaps to transparency, or committed to honesty with the Ace of Swords. And this is an interesting little dialogue that I'd like to talk more about, perhaps in a tea chat or something sometime. Creativity, which is represented by the wand suit, can sometimes be pretty, what's the right word? Illusionary, or even like deceptive. So creativity, if we think of like fiction writing, right? Fantasy novels, that's not a quest for honesty. That's a quest for like fantasy, or a quest for fiction. And sometimes the wand suit can be like that. And we can start to see that we're living a fictitious experience if we're a super wands oriented person, and that's out of balance. Whereas the Ace of Swords coming up is more like, okay, get into gear and get real, and watch how much you elevate just through like logistically kind of sharpening yourself and being fine-tuned and being in reality. So we have this kind of like reality versus fiction situation coming up here in September for you too. And I feel like you're balancing that as a Libra, and maybe changing that on both sides. And it is indicated in this reading that we need to lean more into reality, and lean more into, real written solutions, okay, or real fine-tuned resolutions, instead of like fictitious delay or fictitious compensation. There's a lot to unpack there, but it feels really prevalent to me, and I just kind of feel it as I'm talking about it collectively. It's like people are having an easy time like just putting off their problems and like going to the social media app, or just putting off their problems and like indulging in food or drink or something. And that creates this kind of like fictitious feeling of well-being. And I think that that's solving itself this month. So that's wonderful to see. Otherwise, intuitively, I would say just keep moving away from what you've already identified as, like the devil archetype, or keep kind of trying to forge your own new, lighter, more enjoyable path. And I think that will be really wonderful. Let's talk about your week-to-week Libras. Week number 1, you have the Queen of Swords rooted down by the Ace of Wands reversed. Yes, so that's just basically what I was just talking about. The Queen of Swords also validating that, like, lean more into this decisive, transparent, even legalistic, or fine-tuned, well-chiseled, well-refined, resonant feeling, as opposed to this like burned out or fictitious or unresolvable, kind of like over the top or oversaturated, over-expressive energy. This is something that everybody's going through. It's not just Libras, but I feel that you guys are really solving this up this month. Week number 2, you have the Three of Wands rooted down by the Five of Cups. You see way better horizons. I love Three of Wands coming up next to the Eight of Cups as well on the top row. The top row is incredible. The bottom row is like exactly what is difficult about this period of time. Shoot for the top row here. Also, I would interpret that for you like everything on the surface is fine. Like in reality, everything's fine that you're going through. Everything's great. But you might be like pulling things into the shadow, or trying to like dissect things, or also see the negative as well. Maybe this is like a too much psychological focus, or too much nocturnal yin energy as well. So you might want to think about brightening things up, because I really think that the meat and potatoes of your life right now is really great, and I think you're going the right direction. But anyway, focusing back on the second week, you don't have to justify the new horizon or the ability to put a new foot forward. You don't have to justify that with pain of the past or with what I like to call anti-purpose. Okay, I've talked about that in one of my videos called Finding Purpose and Motivation in the Birth Chart. You can search that on my channel to understand more about purpose and anti-purpose. But you don't have to offset all this positive stuff. Or also, I hear some Libras, and this is just a psychic download. It's like some Libras are thinking, this is too good. Okay, life is too good. Where's the bad situation? I've got to prepare myself for something to go bad here. You don't. Okay, it's all fine. It's all fine. And if you are having a hard time, like in a lower minority of Libras who are actually like really struggling in the second week, I feel that there's just something so great at the same time. Okay, so it's a choice at this point, especially if this is an old wound or if this is an old issue. It's a choice to be looking at these overturned glasses, or it's a choice to feel cheated or taken from or taken advantage of, because I don't think that that's where things are at this point. Okay, I think that that's a coping mechanism at this point. I think that that is a self-validation process. It's hard to hear for some people, but we really have to know what's happening here in the second week and know that there is this really like free open space that is beautiful, and we don't have to be hunched over. We don't have to be afraid. We can really kick into gear, and we can start to like, you know, actually work in a way that works with momentum instead of against momentum. That's definitely a message I would see in the second week. Think about the momentum, okay? Try to dance with that momentum instead of pushing against that momentum, and that will be really helpful. And I think that that could maybe transfer to like many different levels of your life, where you can almost have this like, what I want to call it, like multilateral momentum reformation. I don't know. This is very, very funny to say. But you could have just everything kind of work better with momentum, and it could just click in the second week. And I think that that's where the magic is right now. So bringing that conceptual idea down a little bit to the grounded level, you know, that's updating your, that's updating who you are. You know, that's using more wieldy things. That's scaling things properly. That's things fitting right, and things being up to date, delegated properly, and not overestimating our own capability and pushing ourselves too hard because of that. In the third week, you have the Eight of Cups rooted down by the Devil. So you're like walking away from something. For some of you, this is kind of like a breakup energy. Doesn't mean that that's what's happening for those of you who are happily coupled or committed to someone. But there's something in your life I feel that you are walking away from, or that you are moving away from. Something that's really been connected or bonded for quite a while. So you know, it's a hard combination. The Eight of Cups and the Devil, it's not the easiest. So I would just really recommend in the third week of September really giving yourself space and acknowledging and validating the soul experience that you're going through, rather than being so freaked out at the small moving pieces. Oh my gosh, Libra, this is such an important thing, and this is so helpful to me. I think this would be helpful to everybody, but this is like a really great moral here. Can we appreciate the soul level karma that we're going through and hold space for ourselves, validating that experience separately from the small level events or things that are happening to us day by day? So can we zoom out and see what's really going on? You know, one of my favorite things to talk about regarding a subject like this is, you know, some people go through like a hard breakup. We'll just use this hypothetical. Some people go through a really hard breakup or a really hard trauma, and they would do whatever it took in that timeline to go back into that relationship or to go back into that. And they ask themselves these terrible existential questions like, why can't I have it back? Why has something that I love so much been taken from me? And this becomes like such a hard thing to go through. But then see these people a few years later, like 4 or 5 years later, and see how far they have gone that they would have never been able to do in that old relationship or tied to that old trauma. And then you go to these people and you ask them, do you still want that person back, or do you still want that old situation? And it's bittersweet for them, but they know that they wouldn't be nearly as far as they are now had they retained that situation that they didn't want taken from them. This is hard stuff, and this is like one of the core values of like my channel and my presence here on social media, is to really deconstruct things like this and see the power that we're dealing with through trauma. Okay. So if you are experiencing something traumatic, Libra, I want you to take pleasure in the long-term growth that it's going to cause you, and try to hold space for the experience, and don't worry too much about like this other person or about these other things, because that's a never-ending loop, and that will always be there, but you have a new type of fuel or a new type of motivation really coming in here. Week number 4, you have the Ace of Swords rooted down by the Ten of Wands. So I think that you transcend a lot in the 4th week of September. I think that your old work ethic transcends. I think that you have an easier job coming in. I think that you have, if you own a business, you have a better oiled machine, or like better delegation, a better workforce or something coming in to make this all more feasible or more doable. I think the old problems are leaving. I think you're shedding skin. Okay, we're getting dangerously close to Scorpio season already there by the end of September. And this Scorpio season here in 2022 is such a monumental skin shedding time, more so than it has been probably in like 8 or 9 Scorpio seasons. So there's stuff that's never going to come back, okay, by the time we surpass Scorpio season, and we know it and we feel it, and we already feel that coming. So it's good to like soak in the good stuff here too. Try to not sign yourself up for like more work than you have to. Try to not put yourself through more than you have to. Think, and this is very cliche, but work smart instead of work hard. That's the energy of the 4th week. There's something, what do I want to say? There's something not smart about the way that a lot of Libras are working right now, or spending their energy, time, or money. And you got to have the aha moment, and that's going to come through these first 3 weeks, and through walking away from some type of connection that is just heavy, dense, and even like fictitious. So take a look at that. And it might not be walking away, but it's changing it, or just moving in a direction that is more wholesomely more you. So anyway, Libra, let's talk more about that in your extended reading. Let's talk more about moving towards a direction that's wholesomely more you. And let's talk about working smarter instead of harder. And anything else that comes up, I'll do a central theme, 2 supporting themes, and a significator card. And yes, you get access to all of the readings early and ad-free, all of the extended readings, weekly tea chats on Patreon. It's a great value. It'll be linked below and in the center of your screen. Have a great month, Libras. Bye.